Stop. Don't scroll. God has been preparing someone in the secret place for years just to find you. You've felt the exhaustion of being misunderstood and walking alone, but the silence is breaking today, and I have a prepared word to show you exactly how close they are. I know where you've been, chosen one. You've been sitting in the quiet hours of the night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the promises were just echoes of your own desires. The physical tension of carrying this burden alone has drained your body, leaving you exhausted by the sheer weight of waiting for a relief that seems perpetually delayed. You feel it deep in your bones, the spiritual fatigue of holding on to faith when the waiting feels endless and the heavens seem completely silent. You've hesitated to trust again, terrified to open up your heart, because the fear of remaining unseen and facing another disappointment is almost too heavy to bear. You have been walking through a profound space between the moment God spoke a promise over your life and the moment you actually see it manifest. And then there is the deep unspoken ache of an empty space in your home, a seat at your table that was meant to be shared, a heavy silence that echoes with the absence of the one who is supposed to sit across from you, building a life together. The enemy has been using the whisper of time, telling you it's too late, that you missed your window, and that you have been forgotten. He has been pushing you toward that internal resistance, that overwhelming urge to close your heart and settle for less, just to end the agonizing wait. But I'm here to tell you that the wait was never a punishment. It was a meticulous preparation. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you 3 things. First, I will describe exactly where you have been standing in this painful gap, in a way that will make this heavy silence finally make sense. Second, I am going to release 3 prophetic decrees over your life today, and when you hear the third one, it will reveal exactly why you were brought to this video right at this specific hour. Third, by the end of this message, I will declare 3 names over you that will seal this season of preparation. But hear me clearly. If you leave before the sealing, you leave without the key. And there is a 4th thing that nobody has told you yet. Solomon knew the immense weight of the space between the promise and its arrival, and he didn't just leave us proverbs for a common day. He left a specific instrument to discern the exact sound of footsteps approaching in the silence. I will come back to this. For now, just hold on to it. Because to recognize the alignment when 2 distinct paths finally merge into one, you need more than just hope. You need spiritual sight. Solomon understood that divine alliances are built long before they are ever seen. And he left us a 2-minute key, a specific compass to navigate this season of waiting so you don't miss the divine timing. Keep that in the back of your mind. If you are listening to me right now, it means your spirit is already sensing that something is shifting. The preparation in the shadows is nearly complete. God has been meticulously guiding those hidden pathways, working in the exact space between the tears you cried in secret and the sudden encounters he is orchestrating right now. He has been preparing someone to recognize your specific scars and to honor your journey. But to cross that threshold, your discernment must be sharp. Tell me the truth, chosen one. Haven't you spent countless nights listening to the silence of your house, wondering if anyone will ever truly understand the depth of your scars? Haven't you felt that deep, almost unbearable urge to just close your heart and settle for less, simply to end the agonizing wait and the fear of remaining unseen? Haven't you questioned if the divine intersection you've been praying for was just your imagination playing tricks on you in those quiet hours of the night? Haven't you felt the heavy, physical exhaustion of holding on to faith when the heavens seem completely silent and the burden feels too heavy to carry alone? And haven't you looked at that empty space at your table, feeling the weight of the years, and wondered if God actually remembers the desire he carefully placed in your chest so long ago? This isn't just about waiting, it's about being equipped for the arrival. It is about tuning your spirit so that when the sound of those footsteps finally approaches, you don't mistake them for a stranger. That's why I brought you the Code of Solomon's Wisdom today. It's the exact compass you need to navigate this new season without missing the signs, so you can finally breathe relief and recognize the sudden encounter heaven has ordained for you. The link is right there, open for you, in the first pinned comment. If you believe that the years of preparation were not wasted and that God's timing is exact, type Amen right now. Because you declared your alignment, heaven is releasing the clarity you desperately need. I will now reveal the 5 unmistakable signs that the person God has been meticulously preparing is about to cross your path. These are not coincidences, chosen one. They are the undeniable markers of a divine intersection. When 2 distinct rivers are about to converge, the terrain around them changes violently. The first sign is a sudden, inexplicable intolerance for anything superficial. The first sign is the absolute shifting of your internal tolerance. For years, you tried to make peace with the exhaustion of carrying the burden alone, settling for crumbs of connection to avoid the terrifying fear of remaining unseen. But recently, a holy frustration settled over your spirit. You can no longer pretend casual encounters are enough. You cannot sit in rooms where your soul has to shrink. God is making you allergic to wrong connections, so your heart is completely vacant when the right one finally arrives. This is not you becoming bitter. This is you becoming profoundly aligned. The space between the promise and fulfillment requires a radical purging. Heaven is aggressively clearing your relational field. People who were only meant to be temporary scaffolding are falling away, and while it feels intensely isolating, it is actually the ultimate protection. God will not allow the person he has been preparing to fight through a crowd of wrong choices just to find you. The clearing of the stage is proof that the main event is imminent. The second sign is the heavy intensification of the silence right before the dawn. You have noticed that the heavens have seemed unusually quiet lately. You prayed, fasted, and sought a prophetic word, yet there is a stillness that almost feels like divine abandonment. But listen carefully. This is not the silence of absence. It is the silence of an archer pulling back the bowstring. The tension you feel in your spirit is the precise moment of maximum potential, right before the violent release of the promise. In this profound space between, the enemy wants you to interpret the quiet as a final rejection. He whispers in the quiet hours of the night that you have been forgotten. But Solomon knew that the greatest divine alliances are forged in absolute stillness, far away from the noise of the world. God is keeping you hidden in his quiver for a specific reason. He is silencing distractions so that when the sudden encounter happens, your ears are tuned only to the exact frequency of heaven's designated arrival. The third sign, and hear me, because this is the one that has made you weep behind closed doors, is the sudden, overwhelming awareness of the empty space in your home. You look at your table, walk through your living room, and the physical ache of that vacant chair feels heavier than ever. You have felt the deep, unspoken pain of an empty space in your home that was always meant to be shared. It is an unexplainable grief for someone you haven't even met yet. Why is the Lord allowing you to feel the weight of this empty seat so intensely right now? Because your spirit is already grieving the end of your isolation. You are beginning to recognize the shape of the promise before it even walks through your front door. God is making you acutely aware of the vacancy because he is about to permanently fill it. He is expanding your capacity to receive, creating a vacuum that is pulling the person he has been preparing directly into your orbit. The fourth sign is the sudden spike in spiritual warfare regarding your self-worth. Out of nowhere, old insecurities have resurfaced with a vengeance. You find yourself questioning if you're even worthy of the divine intersection you've been waiting for all these years. The whisper of time has been louder than ever, telling you it's too late, that you are too broken, or that your past disqualifies you from the pure connection God promised. Understand this clearly. This is the hidden enemy panicking because his time is up. The adversary does not attack a dry well. He only fights this hard when he knows the water is about to break forth. He sees the 2 separate rivers flowing through different terrains, completely unaware of each other, yet guided by the same unseen hand to converge at the exact same point. He sees that the confluence is imminent, and his only tactic is to make you walk away from the riverbank just before the other stream arrives. Do not let internal resistance cause you to close your heart now. The fifth and final sign is a strange foundational piece that anchors you even when nothing in the natural has changed. Despite the spiritual fatigue of holding on to faith, despite the sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, there is a quiet knowing deep in your spirit, a sudden urge to just breathe, a profound relief that completely defies logic. You cannot explain it, but you know the season of begging God for an answer is officially over. You have transitioned from petitioning to preparing. In those quiet hours of the night when you question if you will ever be found or understood, you need more than a fleeting emotion. You need a definitive map. That is precisely why the Code of Solomon's Wisdom was released to you today, acting as the exact compass necessary to guide your spirit to recognize the promise without hesitation. But before we go deeper into what this means for your immediate next steps, there is a vital spiritual protocol we must establish. This word you are receiving is not a random algorithm. It is a divine appointment designed to break the cycle of your long isolation. And because this is a living altar of revelation, there is a principle of honor that sustains the constant delivery of these prophetic decrees. And beyond our digital book, Chosen One, you have here another way to strengthen this message that reached your home today, and to make it reach more and more chosen ones like you. We don't receive a single cent for every word I deliver to you here on this channel every day. As a way for you to give back something of what you receive here, we keep a voluntary donation link open. Right below the digital book, in the first pinned comment, any amount that fits your hand today, any sum your heart points to. That's what keeps our channel standing. That's what makes the next message reach another person who needs it, exactly as you needed it. I'll wait for you there, Chosen One. Now, breathe deeply and let your spirit align back to the revelation. The convergence is not waiting for some distant, untouchable future. It is actively happening right in this very moment. You are standing in the sacred space between, and the agonizing preparation is coming to its glorious end. To truly align and step completely out of the heavy silence, you cannot afford to walk blindly into this intersection. When the sound of footsteps approaching in the silence finally echoes, and those two distinct paths finally merge into one, you must have the spiritual capacity to discern who is walking toward you. That is the exact purpose of the Code of Solomon's Wisdom, to serve as the lamp for your feet. Keep this instrument anchored in your mind, because what I'm about to reveal next will expose exactly why your past connections had to fail, without missing the signs. Because the silence you have been sitting in is not an empty room. It is a profound space of preparation. But recognizing the alignment when those two distinct paths finally merge into one requires more than just waiting. It requires an exact tuning of your spirit so that when the moment arrives, you do not hesitate. And that tuning does not happen by accident. Listen to me very carefully, Chosen One. You are standing right now at the absolute threshold of a divine convergence. The person God has been meticulously refining for you in the shadows is not a coincidence. They are an answered decree. But to recognize them, your spirit must be aligned, and your eyes must be open to the hidden pathways that are being laid out before you. That is why I am handing you this instrument today. The Code of Solomon's Wisdom is not just a book to read and forget. It is the exact compass you need to navigate this heavy silence and to know precisely when to breathe that deep sigh of relief. And the link to access it is open for you right now in the first pinned comment below this video. But before you click, there is something you must understand about the weight of what you are holding. This instrument was not forged in times of ease. Solomon knew that divine alliances are built long before they are ever seen, mastering the wisdom of preparation and timing. He knew the quiet hours of the night when you question if you will ever be found or understood. He knew the exhaustion of carrying the burden alone and the fear of remaining unseen. And he left behind a 2-minute key, a specific, actionable map to align your spirit with the divine timing. The Code of Solomon's Wisdom takes that ancient, profound understanding and places it directly into your hands, so you never again have to wonder if you missed your window or if the heavens have simply forgotten you. When you secure the Code of Solomon's Wisdom today, you are not just getting the map to understand the timing, because heaven knows the toll this waiting has taken on your physical body. Heaven knows the deep tension in your shoulders, the heavy weight in your chest, and the sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, wondering when relief will finally come. That is why this compass comes accompanied by the ritual of the righteous sleep. This is not just a nighttime routine. It is a spiritual covering designed to silence the whisper of time that tells you it is too late. It is a specific application to ensure that when you lay down in the quiet hours of the night, you actually rest. allowing your body to recover from the sheer spiritual fatigue of holding on to faith. And it prepares you entirely for the moment of looking up and realizing the wait is over. But the preparation does not stop in the night. The morning is when the enemy tries to cloud your vision the most, making you hesitate to trust again and whispering that the heavy silence will be permanent. That is why you are also receiving the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees. These are 7 specific targeted declarations to speak over your life the moment your feet touch the floor. They are designed to break the internal resistance, that overwhelming urge to close your heart and settle for less just to end the agony of waiting. With these decrees, you will walk into your day fully aligned, knowing that the sound of those approaching footsteps is not a trick of the imagination, but the physical manifestation of the promise God made to you years ago. I know there is a part of you that is hesitating right now. You have been let down before. You have opened your heart in the past, only to be met with more silence and a deeper exhaustion of carrying the burden alone. But the intensity of your hesitation right now is the exact proof of how close you are to the intersection. The enemy does not fight you this hard for something that isn't real. He wants you distracted and doubting because he knows that if you take hold of this compass, his ability to keep you isolated is permanently destroyed. Do not let this moment pass. Heaven wants you anchored and assured. As Psalm 4:8 promises, I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. And I want to make this decision lighter than the burden you have been carrying for so long. You might be wondering what it takes to access this profound wisdom, to receive the map, the ritual of the righteous sleep and the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees. Listen to me, chosen one. The Code of Solomon's wisdom is waiting for you right now in the first pinned comment, and you can have all of this today for less than a Thursday lunch at the diner. That is all it takes to shift your discernment and equip your spirit for the arrival. Less than a Thursday lunch at the diner. You might say, but I have tried reading so many things before, and the silence remained, and I still questioned if I would ever be found. This is not just another thing to read. This is a divine mechanism of alignment. You might say, but I don't have hours to spend studying every day. The exhaustion of carrying this burden leaves me with no energy. That is exactly why Solomon left us a 2-minute key. It is designed precisely for the reality of your life and your fatigue right now. You might say, I just want the relief. I don't need the instrument. But recognizing the cycle without the instrument that Solomon left is like receiving the diagnosis without the treatment. You remain exactly where you are, knowing the name of the promise, but lacking the hand to grasp it when it finally arrives. There are people just like you who are sitting in that same heavy silence, feeling the exact same unspoken ache of an empty space at their table, wondering if they were entirely forgotten. Consider a 51-year-old woman who was staring at her ceiling every single night, terrified she would remain unseen forever and that the sound of footsteps would never come. She didn't just hope for a change, she used this exact compass. Within weeks, the internal exhaustion lifted and the divine intersection manifested, not as a random chance, but as a recognized answered decree. And her final sentence to me was, the silence wasn't emptiness. It was the space being cleared for the right footsteps to be heard. Or a 47-year-old man who was so physically and spiritually exhausted from the burden that he was ready to close his heart completely and settle for less. He started the 7 morning decrees, and the shift in his spirit was immediate and undeniable. He finally breathed that deep sigh of relief he had been waiting years for, and his final sentence was, I wasn't just waiting in isolation, I was being positioned for the exact moment of confluence. Or a 62-year-old woman who felt the heavy, unspoken ache of an empty home every single day, questioning if she would ever be truly understood by another soul. She applied the 2-minute key, and the heavy silence finally broke. Her final sentence was, the 2 distinct paths didn't just merge, they recognized each other instantly, as if they had been walking together all along. Their final realization was exactly the same. It wasn't just a delay, it was a meticulous divine preparation for the moment of looking up and realizing the wait is over. And you don't even have to carry the weight of this decision alone. You have a complete 7 days guarantee to see the shift in your discernment with your own eyes. If you open the code of Solomon's wisdom, if you apply the 2-minute key, if you engage the ritual of the righteous sleep and you do not feel the heavy tension lift from your shoulders, the risk is entirely on us. You have 7 days to prove this word right and to see the alignment begin. The guarantee is total. The risk is zero. The only risk is remaining in the space between and missing the sound of the footsteps because your spirit was not properly tuned. Listen to the absolute conviction in my voice. The person God has been preparing in the secret place is close. The two separate rivers flowing through different terrains for years are about to converge at the exact same point to form something immovable. The confluence is imminent, but you must be ready to recognize the alignment. The code of Solomon's wisdom is waiting for you. Click the link in the first pinned comment now. Secure your compass. Equip your spirit. Do it now before the whisper of time tries to convince you to wait just one more day and risk missing the divine timing. The preparation is over. The alignment is happening. Reach out and take the instrument that was left specifically for you. Because what I am about to reveal next will show you the exact spiritual mechanism of how this divine recognition happens and why you cannot afford to be spiritually blind in this exact hour. And before I deliver the next word that's still coming now, because it's still coming and it weighs, I want to remind you of one thing, chosen one. As I told you earlier, beyond the digital book that's in the first pinned comment, there's that voluntary donation link open right below the book. We continue receiving not a single cent for every word I deliver here for you every day. That's why this link exists, chosen one, so that another person tomorrow finds exactly this word that found you today. Any amount your heart points to. Each gesture like that keeps our channel standing and makes the next message reach whoever needs it, exactly as it reached you today. And one more thing before we return to the message, I want you to know the following. From time to time here on our channel, I record a special honor video. A thank you video with a special word only to recognize the chosen ones who donated the most and those who acquired the digital book. All who sustained this word with me deserve that mention of gratitude for such a generous act. You sow here, heaven remembers you up there, and I remember you down here. I'll wait for you there at the link. Again, chosen one. You have been sitting in the heavy silence, chosen one. You have been looking at that empty seat at your table, wondering if the promises were just echoes in the quiet hours of the night. But heaven does not operate in our anxiety. Heaven operates in absolute precision, and right now in the very space where you thought you were forgotten, there is a mystery unfolding. Before two distinct paths can finally merge into one, there is a spiritual mechanism of recognition that must be activated in your spirit. The sound of those footsteps approaching in the silence is not a random occurrence. It is the culmination of years of invisible labor. There is a word in the original Hebrew text that changes the entire trajectory of this waiting period. It is a word that the modern church has almost entirely forgotten how to teach, but it is the exact key to understanding what God has been doing in the shadows. That word is yada. Listen to the sound of it. Yada. It does not mean a casual meeting. It does not mean bumping into someone by chance on a Thursday afternoon. It means to know deeply, to be known at the core of your being, to recognize another soul because God Himself has woven your timelines together. Yada is the divine recognition of souls that God has been meticulously preparing in the secret place. When this moment of yada happens, it is not just two people looking at each other. It is two spiritual histories colliding. The person God has been refining for you will not just see your surface. Because of yada, they will recognize your specific scars. They will look at the exact places where you were broken, where you spent those sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, and they will honor your journey. This is the true yada. It is the moment when the heavy silence in your house is finally broken, not by just any voice, but by a voice that carries the frequency of heaven. Solomon understood this mystery better than anyone. He was the king who knew that divine alliances are built long before they are ever seen. Solomon did not just wait for the right people to show up. He mastered the wisdom of preparation and timing. He knew that while we are sleeping, while we are crying in the quiet hours of the night, God is in the unseen realm, cutting stones, shaping timber, and preparing the materials for a temple that is not yet built. Solomon knew that the sound of footsteps approaching in the silence is always preceded by a season of profound, hidden preparation. He knew that you cannot rush a divine intersection. If God brings the right person before you are ready, or before they are ready, the weight of the blessing will crush the both of you. That is why Solomon left us a compass, an instrument of discernment to understand the space between the spoken promise and the physical arrival. He understood that the greatest tragedy is not waiting. The greatest tragedy is when the person God prepared finally walks into your life, and your spirit is too exhausted, too closed, or too blind to experience that yada recognition. Let me show you exactly what is happening in the spirit realm right now. I want you to picture two separate rivers. For years, these two rivers have been flowing through completely different terrains. One river has crashed over jagged rocks, surviving brutal winters and intense storms. The other river has wound its way through dark valleys and deep canyons. For miles and miles, for years and years, these two rivers were completely unaware of each other's existence. You are one of those rivers, chosen one. You have been flowing through your own difficult terrain, feeling the exhaustion of being misunderstood, wondering if you would always flow alone. But what you could not see from your vantage point was that both rivers were being guided by the exact same unseen hand. God was shaping the banks, carving the earth, and directing the currents so that at the precise, appointed time, they would converge at the exact same point. The person God has been preparing is that other river. They have their own history of surviving the rocks and the valleys, and right now, the confluence is imminent. The merging is not a possibility, it is a divine decree. When these two waters finally meet, they will not just mix, they will form something immovable, a force that the enemy cannot cross. You thought you were buried under the dirt of isolation, but you were planted as a seed. You have endured a long, bitter winter. You felt the chill of loneliness in your home, the physical tension of trusting when heaven seemed completely silent. But a seed does not remain in the dark forever. The winter is breaking, chosen one. The harvest of this long season of preparation is standing at your door. The roots have gone deep enough, and now the soil is shifting. The exact person who has been prepared to match your spiritual DNA is being positioned for the harvest. This is why the enemy has been fighting your mind so aggressively lately. He knows that the yada moment is close. He knows that the distinct paths are finally merging into one. He has been whispering in your ear, trying to convince you that it is too late, trying to make you build walls around your heart. He wants you to be so consumed by the fear of remaining unseen that when the sound of those footsteps finally approaches in the silence, you lock the door instead of opening it. But I am here to break that whisper over your life right now. When this divine intersection happens, you are finally going to breathe. The dominant emotion will not be butterfly anxiety. It will be a profound, earth-shattering relief. You will look into their spirit, and they will look into yours, and your soul will exhale. You will realize that every tear, every lonely Thursday lunch, every empty chair at your table was simply the necessary space being preserved for the one who was meant to occupy it. You will breathe out the years of exhaustion, and you will breathe in the exact peace that God promised you. I want you to feel that relief right now. Imagine the exact moment when you no longer have to explain yourself. You will not have to translate your spirit. The yada recognition means they will look at you and simply understand. They will see the physical tension you have carried in your shoulders, and they will offer rest. To align with this person is to finally drop the armor you have been wearing for years. It is the end of the defensive posture. It is the moment you realize that the space between the promise and the fulfillment was building your capacity to hold the blessing. You are standing on the very edge of this convergence. The preparation is over. The alignment is beginning. But before you can step fully into this new season and recognize the one who carries your name in their spirit, there is a fourth thing that nobody has told you yet. There is a specific tactic the enemy uses in the final hour, before the intersection, to blind your spiritual sight. And what comes next will explain why everything in your life had to happen in this exact order. Listen to me with your spirit right now, chosen one, because what we are about to enter is the most critical phase of this message. Before I reveal the exact spiritual profile you have been carrying during this agonizing season of waiting, We must establish the absolute foundation of what is actually happening in the unseen realm regarding your life. There are 4 irrefutable facts about this divine convergence that you must write on the tablet of your heart today. Fact number 1. The sound of those footsteps approaching in the silence is not a figment of your weary imagination, nor is it a trick of your lonely heart. It is the literal vibration of 2 distinct paths finally merging into one under God's sovereign command. Fact number 2. The profound space between the promise you heard and the reality you are waiting for was never a punishment. It was the exact spiritual crucible required to forge an alliance that the enemy cannot shatter. God had to protect you in the shadows while He finished the work in both of you. Fact number 3. The person heaven is sending has been walking through their own hidden wilderness. They have been stripped of pride, healed of past betrayals, and refined by their own fires, prepared specifically to recognize your unique scars without judgment and to honor your journey. Fact number 4. The moment of looking up and realizing the wait is over is already set on heaven's calendar. It is immovable. The sudden shifting you feel in your spirit right now is the undeniable proof that the delay has expired and the intersection is imminent. But to fully step into this convergence and possess the promise, you must understand exactly how you have survived the gap. Heaven recognizes 3 distinct spiritual postures, 3 specific types of chosen ones who navigate this silent preparation. You need to know exactly which one you are today, because your posture determines how you will recognize them when they finally arrive. The first type is the bearer of the heavy silence. If this is you, you know exactly what the quiet hours of the night feel like. You are the one who stays awake when the rest of the house is sleeping, staring at the ceiling, fighting the terrifying thought that perhaps you misheard the voice of God. You have felt the deep physical tension of carrying this burden alone, absorbing the shockwaves of loneliness without complaining to anyone. You smile during the day, you serve others, you pray fervently for their marriages and breakthroughs, but secretly, you are bleeding from the exhaustion of being misunderstood. Yet despite the agony and the enemy's whispers that you will always give love but never receive it, you have refused to let bitterness take root in your spirit. The second type is the watchman of the empty seat. You are the chosen one who looks at the table in your home and feels the visceral, physical ache of the absence. You have prepared your life and your space for a partner, yet that chair remains unoccupied. You have been tempted time and time again by the overwhelming urge to close your heart entirely, to settle for less, or to accept a counterfeit connection just to end the agonizing wait. You have stood at the edge of giving up, terrified of remaining unseen forever. But every time you tried to walk away, a holy unrest pulled you back. You have kept that spiritual space open, guarding it fiercely, even when your own logic told you it was a foolish endeavor. The third type is the architect of the merging paths. You are the one who has actively done the grueling inner work while waiting in the dark. You haven't just been waiting passively. You have been allowing God to meticulously heal your deepest triggers and align your shattered soul. You recognize that the preparation wasn't just about them being ready. It was about making sure that when you finally collide, you are whole enough to recognize the divine connection. You understood the wisdom of Solomon, that divine alliances are built long before they are ever seen. You have been building your half of the bridge in total obscurity, trusting that God was guiding someone else to build the other half from the opposite shore. Whichever posture you have held, listen to me now. The season of merely surviving the wait is coming to an abrupt and permanent end. I told you at the very beginning of this message that I would seal 3 names over your life. This is not a poetic metaphor. In the spiritual realm, a new name signifies a shifted reality, a cancelled debt, and a new level of delegated authority. Receive these names into your spirit right now. The first name I declare over you is the guardian of the appointed time. You are no longer the victim of endless waiting. You are the guardian of God's perfect timing. You have successfully protected the promise from the vultures of doubt and the wolves of desperation. You did not abort the process when the fire got too hot. Heaven recognizes your endurance, and this name seals your victory over the spirit of premature surrender. The second name is the steward of the silent preparation. Heaven honors the profound fact that you did not compromise your core values just to fill the agonizing void. You stewarded your solitude with absolute dignity. You allowed God to use the quiet hours of the night to refine your character, ensuring that when this divine convergence happens, it will not be built on the shifting sand of human desperation, but on the immovable rock of His eternal word. The third name I seal over you is the receiver of the divine intersection. The days of sowing and bitter tears are over. You are officially transitioning into the season of receiving. You are being positioned right now to align, to recognize the one who carries your specific frequency, and to finally breathe that deep sigh of relief as you look across the room and know, without a shadow of a doubt, that the Maker of heaven and earth kept His word to you. But listen to me with everything you have, chosen one. Bearing these names and standing at the very edge of this massive intersection requires a level of discernment that this world cannot teach you. You absolutely cannot afford to let the exhaustion of carrying the burden alone cloud your spiritual vision in this final critical hour. The fear of remaining unseen is a heavy, blinding fog. And if you walk into this convergence relying only on your own weary emotions, the enemy will try to introduce a distraction, a counterfeit that looks exactly like a blessing but is designed to derail your destiny. This is exactly why Solomon did not leave you to navigate the dark alone. He left you a lamp. The code of Solomon's wisdom is the precise instrument you need to clear the fog of your fatigue. It is the compass that trains your spirit to instantly differentiate between the counterfeit who wants to waste your time and the prepared one who is meant to merge paths with you. It is waiting for you right now, open and available in the first pinned comment. You need this key secured in your hand before the next test comes, and I say before the next test comes because there is a specific, hidden strategy the enemy uses right at the threshold of your greatest breakthrough. But knowing the names I just declared over you is only the first step. You are standing in the space between the promise and its fulfillment, and the enemy knows how vulnerable you are in this corridor. If he can't stop the person God is preparing, his only option is to blind you so you don't recognize them when the paths merge. He doesn't fight you with loud attacks. He fights with subtle whispers in the quiet hours of the night. He uses 3 specific tactics to derail your alignment. I need you to listen carefully, because recognizing these traps is the only way to protect the arrival. His first tactic is the illusion of delay. He creeps into your mind when the tension of carrying this burden alone feels unbearable, whispering that you have been forgotten. He tries to convince you that this long wait isn't preparation, but a punishment, or proof that the promise was just an echo of your desires. He wants you to look at that empty seat at your table and feel the weight of time slipping away, making you believe the heavens are completely silent because they have turned their back on you. But the first weapon you must raise is the anchor of divine timing. Solomon knew that God's unseen hand operates on perfect alignment, not human urgency. You must understand that the delay is not a denial. It is the time required for the other river to carve its path to meet yours. When the whisper of time tries to break you, declare that your timeline is hidden in the Almighty. The compass to hold this anchor steady is waiting for you in the code of Solomon's wisdom, giving you the clarity to stand firm. The second tactic in this silent gap is the counterfeit connection. When he sees you exhausted from walking alone and terrified of remaining unseen, he will place an imitation in your path. He sends someone who looks almost right, but does not carry the yada, the divine recognition of souls. He preys on your urge to close your heart and settle for less, just to end the agonizing wait, hoping you will compromise the depth of the connection God prepared for temporary relief. To dismantle this, you must wield the weapon of spiritual sight. This is about tuning your spirit to recognize the specific frequency of the one God is refining for you. It is the ability to look past the surface and discern if this person truly honors your scars. Guard your heart fiercely, refusing to settle for an echo. This precise discernment is exactly what the Code of Solomon's wisdom activates within you, illuminating the hidden pathways so you never mistake a counterfeit for the chosen. The third tactic is the weaponization of the heavy silence. The enemy knows that in the quiet hours of the night, your mind is vulnerable. He uses the sheer absence of sound to amplify your doubts, making you question if you will ever be found. He tries to turn the silence of your house into a prison, convincing you that the peace of the space between is actually isolation, slowly draining your energy until you stop expecting the sound of footsteps approaching. Against this, deploy the weapon of expectant rest. You do not fight the heavy silence by filling it with noise. You conquer it with anchored expectation. In the deepest silence, God is aligning the unseen elements of your life and preparing the one meant to find you. When you choose to rest in His sovereignty, the silence loses its power to torment you. You shift from anxious waiting to confident readiness, knowing that the divine intersection is imminent. And hear me closely, chosen one. There are 4 more subtle tactics beyond these 3 that I cannot unpack here. Not for lack of time, by density. Each one needs its own dedicated page and the exact counterweapon to dismantle it. And while I do not deliver those 4 tactics here, the adversary knows every single one of them. He counts on your ignorance. But the guide delivers them. When the heavy silence of the night tries to convince you that the promise has expired, when the exhaustion of carrying the burden alone makes you want to settle. When you look at that empty seat at your table and question if you will ever be known, you need a permanent strategy. Recognizing the cycle of the sound of footsteps approaching without having the instrument that Solomon left behind is like receiving the diagnosis without the treatment. It leaves you where you have always been, knowing the name, but fighting with empty hands. And that is why there is one last obstacle that needs to be named before you say amen. I'm about to release the final decrees over your life, but I must warn you, the atmosphere is shifting drastically. The enemy will do everything in his power right now to distract you. He will try to make your mind wander or tell you that you can click away. Do not let him steal this. What is about to be released is the very thing that will break the silence and align you with the one searching for you. Anchor your feet. Breathe deeply. The confluence is about to happen. Close your eyes where you are right now, chosen one. The teachings of Solomon, the deep revelations of the compass, they have brought you to this very threshold. I am not just going to talk to you anymore. I am going to stand in the gap for you. We are going to pray right now, and as we do, I want you to visualize that heavy silence in your home finally breaking. I want you to picture the sound of those approaching footsteps getting louder, becoming clear and unmistakable in the spirit. Father, you have seen the quiet hours of the night when they stared at the ceiling, wondering if the promises were just echoes of their own desires. You have measured the immense weight of the exhaustion they have carried alone, and you have known their profound fear of remaining unseen. I ask you now to align their spirit with the precise timing of heaven. Let them finally breathe a deep, restoring sigh of relief. Let them recognize the divine intersection you have so meticulously prepared. Let the 2 distinct paths that have been flowing separately for years finally merge into one unbreakable river. And walking in the authority delegated to me by heaven, I release 4 specific decrees over your life right now. First, I release you from the agonizing, suffocating lie of perpetual isolation. The enemy has tried relentlessly to convince you that this empty seat at your table is a permanent fixture, that you are simply destined to carry the burden of the household without a partner to share the load. I break that lie over your life today. I declare that the space between receiving the word and the fulfillment of the promise is closing at this exact moment. You are not forgotten. The isolation was a greenhouse of preparation, not a tomb of forgotten dreams. The person God has been refining for you is already walking toward the confluence. Second, I release you from the spiritual fatigue that has been whispering into your ear that time has completely run out. I absolutely silence the voice of the adversary that tells you it is simply too late to start over, too late to trust again, too late to be known deeply in the profound way of Yada. That whisper is a malicious deception designed specifically to make you settle for less. I command a renewed, supernatural strength into your bones right now. The divine timing of heaven operates entirely outside the constraints of your physical clock. Your season of hidden pathways is culminating precisely on schedule, and not a single tear shed in those quiet hours of the night has been wasted. Third, I release you from the deep, internal resistance that has been urging you to close your heart just to protect yourself from facing another disappointment. You have built massive walls because you were terrified of remaining unseen once again, terrified of being desperately misunderstood by someone who hasn't been prepared by God for your specific scars. I decree that those defensive walls are coming down today. You are receiving the exact compass you need to discern the true alignment when it finally arrives. You will not have to force a connection or explain your depth to someone who cannot swim in your waters. When the right soul arrives, they will recognize you without a single word. Fourth, and this is the most hidden, insidious chain of all, I release you right now from the silent, suffocating fear of seeming ungrateful. The enemy has weaponized your own faith against you, whispering in the shadows that because God has already blessed you in other areas, desiring this specific companionship is somehow selfish or unthankful. He has tried relentlessly to make you feel guilty for looking at that empty seat at your table and aching for connection, telling you that you should just be content in your isolation. I shatter that guilt right now in the name of Jesus. It is God Himself who placed that desire in your chest. Wanting to share the life He gave you is not ingratitude. It is the very design of heaven. Hear me very closely now, chosen one. The sheer intensity of the spiritual attack you have faced over these years, the sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, the overwhelming hesitation to trust, the heavy silence that seemed to mock your prayers, is not a sign that you are failing. It is the absolute proof of the massive magnitude of what you carry. The adversary does not waste this staggering level of warfare on someone who is insignificant. He fights you this fiercely because he knows exactly what will happen when your path finally merges with the one God has specifically prepared for you. He is terrified of the immovable force that will be created when your two distinct rivers finally converge into one. The intensity of the delay is the exact measure of the glory of the imminent arrival. And right now, in this sacred and set-apart space, heaven wants to speak directly to your weary spirit. Listen to the voice of your Father. I have seen every single tear you cried when you thought no one was watching. I have counted the agonizing nights you spent, wondering if my promises were real. I have never abandoned you in the quiet hours. While you were waiting in the heavy silence, I was meticulously shaping the heart of the one who will honor your journey. I was aligning their steps, refining their spirit, and preparing them to recognize your scars not as flaws, but as the very map of my grace upon your life. Do not look at the calendar, and do not listen to the deceiving whispers of time. I am the Lord of the harvest, and I am the absolute master of the sudden encounter. I have kept you hidden, because your heart was far too precious to be given to someone who had not yet been tempered by my fire. The isolation was my protection. The silence was my workshop. I was not ignoring your prayers. I was building a foundation so strong that when this divine intersection finally occurs, no storm of the enemy will ever be able to tear it apart. Breathe, my chosen one. You can stop striving. You can finally put down the heavy armor you have been carrying for so long. The exhausting season of walking completely alone is drawing to a rapid close. The compass I have provided will guide you through this final stretch of the journey. Trust in my timing, for it is flawless. When the distinct paths converge, you will finally understand the necessity of every single day of the wait. You will look into their eyes and experience the true yada, the profound, unbreakable peace of being completely known and entirely safe. I am opening the hidden pathways for you right now. The footsteps are already approaching in the silence. Do not close your heart out of fear, and do not settle for a counterfeit out of sheer weariness. Stand firm in the wisdom I have imparted to you. Keep your lamp burning and your spirit perfectly tuned, for the promise is not just approaching, it is already crossing the threshold of your life. I have spoken it, and I will perform it. Rest in my delegated authority, for the space between the word and the fulfillment has finally been bridged. You need to give yourself permission to receive this right now, chosen one. For years you have been the strong one. You have been the intercessor for everyone else, the unbreakable pillar of your family, the one who carries the heavy burdens without ever asking for a hand to hold. But today, you have to permit yourself to be the one who receives the promise. You have to lay down the false nobility of suffering alone and fully accept that God deeply wants to bless you with this divine alliance. Give yourself the explicit permission to step out of the waiting room and into the reality of the fulfillment. Let go of the guilt and embrace the Yada that is walking toward you today. I now extend my hand toward your home and decree a covering of sealing over everything that belongs to you. Over your table, so that every meal becomes an act of communion and not of anxiety, and that the conversations that happen there are seasoned with wisdom from above. I declare a covering over your children and your spouse, if you have them. May your obedience tonight become a mantle of protection over them. May they feel the atmosphere of your home shift, the heavy silence lift, and the lightness of God's presence enter. And I decree a covering over your work, over your hands, over every project and opportunity. May the divine alignment you have learned here unlock the hidden pathways in your daily labor. May your immediate obedience become your greatest qualification in the eyes of men and in the eyes of God. You are no longer waiting blindly in the dark. You are standing with the lamp lit, recognizing the sound of the approaching footsteps. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. Close your eyes for just a second. I want you to imagine a vast, quiet room, and in the center of it, a table set for two. For years, you have sat at this table, feeling the weight of the empty seat, carrying the burden alone and questioning in the quiet hours of the night if you would ever be found or understood. The silence in that room has been heavy, almost deafening. But I want you to look up now. The profound space between the moment God spoke His promise and the moment it walks into your life is closing. Listen closely. The sound of footsteps is approaching in the silence. The person God has been meticulously preparing in the secret place is no longer a distant echo. They are walking into your room. The two distinct paths, like rivers flowing through different terrains, are finally merging into one. The wait is over. You are no longer waiting blindly in the dark. You are standing with the lamp lit, recognizing the sound of the approaching footsteps. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. Don't say amen yet. Sit in this for a moment. Feel the weight of what just happened. Now, you may say amen. I want you to hear one thing before you close this video, because there is a phrase the adversary will whisper in your ear in the next 3 hours. When the voice of God declared over your home and your hands that your specific scars are being honored, and this divine intersection is happening now, heaven moved. But before the phrase, there is something you must receive. What was sealed here will be tested in the next quiet hours of the night. The code of Solomon's wisdom is waiting for you in the first pinned comment. With the ritual of the righteous sleep and the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees, for less than a Thursday lunch at the diner, because the name sealed over you without covering will decay in the next quiet hours of the night. And the adversary is counting on the quiet hours of the night. This is not an expense, it is an instrument, and Solomon prepared it for you to cross what is coming with a firm hand, not with an empty hand, with a 7 days guarantee. The risk is ours, the hand is yours. Click now while the decree is still alive in your chest. Not tomorrow, not after your shower, because whoever leaves it for later, leaves it for never. And the adversary already knows this. In the next 3 hours he will speak inside you, not with a loud voice, in sequence 5 short phrases. It is just another book. You have waited this long. What is one more day? This is probably just a coincidence. You are too exhausted to try again. You can always look at this later. 5 waves. He tries from 5 angles. In some of them, you yield. Today, right now, before the next quiet hours of the night, not later, today. And Solomon will sustain it with you. And now the final word of this video. And in the next word that I will bring to this channel, I will hand you the 3 divine signs that the person God has been preparing is finally crossing your path. Whoever heard this word today must hear that one in sequence, because what comes now is not a continuation. It is a deepening. Click on the video that will appear on the screen in a few seconds. And still in this video, chosen one, before I seal this hour with you, I return one last time to this request. You walked with me until here. You crossed every word, every decree, every sign. And if at any moment of this message you felt heaven touch you, you know this video was no accident. The voluntary donation link continues open in the first pinned comment right below the digital book, not as a charge, not as exchange. As the chosen ones return to the altar from which the word came forth, any amount your heart points to, and heaven sees every gesture. Heaven sees, and heaven multiplies it over your home, over your days, over what you don't yet know is coming. That was my last request. I'll wait for you there, chosen one. And before you go, think of a specific person who is also carrying the burden alone and sitting in the heavy silence. Send this message to them right now. When they open it, they will need what you just received, including the instrument that Solomon left. It might be the exact key that opens their cycle too. The moment of looking up and realizing the wait is over is finally here. If you have received this word and sealed it in your spirit, go to the comments right now and type, "Amen, I am ready for the intersection." The two distinct paths have become one. I will see you in the next word. God bless your path.